In this lecture, we will introduce the like operator and show how it's used in pattern matching. The like operator is another operator you may have not seen before. It actually has quite a few applications with it. The idea with the operator is we can compare a string against some pattern. If you're familiar with pattern matching or regular expressions, then the like operator is working in that sense, where we have some pattern and we're trying to see if our string matches that pattern, depending on what we specify there. Let me give you the format of how this operator works before we actually get into how to use the operator. So this would be our format. So we have some result, and it's going to be equal to some string, the word like, and then some pattern. Here, the result is going to be a Boolean value, so it's either true or false. So that tells us that the like operator is either going to evaluate to true or false. String here is going to be the original string expression. So we're given some string and we're going to try to see if it matches some pattern. So this could be a string itself, it could be a string variable, it could be a string literal, but string is going to be some string where we're going to compare something with it. And then the pattern is going to be a string expression. But with that said, it's not a string like your typical string that you're used to. What it's going to contain are these pattern matching conventions. So it's like different types of characters, uppercase letters, lowercase letters, digits, wildcards, those kind of things. So this matches more along the lines of the regular expression notation that you may have seen in other circumstances. But what we're trying to do here is say we have some string and then we have this type of pattern. Does the string match our given pattern? Let's talk a little bit more about the pattern part, because I think that's the part that's going to have the most confusion before we look at any examples. So the idea with this pattern is we create a string, but it's not the exact type of string. What we're going to do is like this character by character comparison, and this pattern is going to allow us to match each character in our original given string against several things. We can compare a specific character in our string against another specific character to see if the respective characters at that particular position match. We can compare a character against a wildcard character, where this wildcard character could be any character. We could compare things against a character list. So this could be a possible set of characters that this particular spot could have. Or we can even have a character range where we can say, well, as long as this particular character is within a certain range of characters, then we have met that pattern. So we're going to be doing a lot of character by character comparisons to see if our string matches the given pattern. We'll start with the question mark character. This is pretty much our wildcard character in that it represents any single character. So the idea with this is if we have a string and we're trying to see if it matches our pattern, the question mark pretty much means that any character can be at that spot. Let me give you some examples to help show you how this wildcard character works. So let's say we have the string call and we're trying to see if it's like the pattern C question mark LL, where C and L are capitalized. This is true. So remember, the way the like operator works is we're checking to see if our string matches our pattern. Our pattern in this case is that the first character must be a capital C, the second character can be any character, and the last two characters have to be capital L's. So we check, does call, that's all capital letters, match this? And the answer is yes, it does match the pattern because we see that the first character in both cases are capital C's. The second character, we have an A and a question mark. Since the question mark can be any character, including a capital A, then we say that matches. And then the third character in both of these are capital L's, and then the last character in both of these are capital L's. Therefore, we do have a match, so the like operator is going to return true. Let's do a couple more examples. Let's say we have the string lowercase call, so all the characters are lowercase, and then we try to see if it matches our pattern capital C question mark capital L capital L. This is going to be false because we're trying to match lowercase characters with uppercase letters. That doesn't work. It has to be an exact match, so this is going to return false. What about this example, where we have cell, where all the letters are capitalized, and then we have our same pattern as before. This is going to be true because the C and the two L's match in both strings, and then we have the E for our second character in our string, and then we have the question mark for the second character for a pattern. So since question mark can be any character, such as a capital E, we do have a match, so this is going to be true. Now what about this example, where we have cal, so just C-A-L, and then C question mark L-L. This is going to be false because even though the first three letters, or first three characters in both of these strings match, the first string does not have a second capital L. There's no match there. It has to be an exact match in this case. So since we're missing that extra L, this is going to be false. Our string does not match the pattern. Let's try something like this, where we have called as our string, and we're trying to see if it matches the pattern C question mark LL. This is also going to be false. Even though the first four characters of our string match the pattern, our string includes a capital E and a capital D. Our pattern does not have that. Therefore, it does not match the pattern, so this is going to be false. Let's do one more example. Let's say we have CLL and see if that matches our pattern C question mark LL. This is also false. The question mark the question mark corresponds to any character. That does not include the no character. There isn't a null character in this case. There has to be a character for that spot. So technically what's going to happen here actually is that the two C's will match, and then the first L in CLL will match the question mark, and then the third L, or I should say the second L and the third character in our string will match the third character in our pattern, but there is no fourth character in our string. Now if we had a fourth character in that string and that was an L, then this would be true. But because our string has 3 characters and our pattern has 4 characters, this is going to return false. The next character we'll take a look at is the star character or the asterisk character. Either term is fine. This particular character represents 0 or more characters. So what that means in our pattern is that this could be no characters at all. It could be any single character. It could be any set of characters. So let's take a look at some examples and see how we can use this character in our like operator. So let's say we have the following example. So we have capital W as our string, and we're trying to see if it matches the pattern W star. I'm probably just going to use star instead of asterisk because it's simpler. This is going to return true because the star here would represent 0 characters, so we're basically saying does W match W? And it does, so this is going to be true. Let's try another example. Let's say we have WV capitalized and see if that matches the pattern W star. This is also going to be true, and this is because the two W's match, and then we're trying to match the V with the star. Well, the star could be any character, so that means it could be a V in this case, so therefore we have matching characters, so therefore this is going to be true. Let's try another example. Let's try West Virginia and see if that matches the pattern W star. This is true. Basically what our pattern is saying is if our string starts with a capital W, doesn't matter what comes afterwards, as long as it starts with a capital W, then we get a match. That's kind of the way we can think of this, that our pattern is our string must be a capital W and then can be anything afterwards. There could be nothing, but there could be something. So in this case, West Virginia does start with a capital letter, or capital W I should say, and even though there's a space in there, that's fine. It does match, so this is true. Let's try this example here. So we have lowercase w and lowercase y, and we're checking to see if it matches our pattern. So we have to ask, does our string start with a capital W? In this case, no, it does not. It starts with a lowercase w. So therefore, the first two characters don't match, or the first character in both strings don't match. Therefore, this is going to return false. Let's try this example. Let's just try West and see if that matches our pattern with the W and the star. This is true because West here does start with a capital W. Therefore, it does match, so this is going to be true. Let's try one more example. Let's try West again, except the W is lowercase. Does that match our pattern? In this case, it does not, because we're asking again, does west start with a capital W? If so, doesn't matter what comes afterwards, it's going to match. But since here it's a lowercase w, it does not match the first uppercase W in our pattern, therefore this is going to return false.